Mike, why don't you, or Sunita, whoever's going to start, but someone take it away.
Yeah, Rochambeau.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome, as Alan was saying, to our last session of the year, number 72. Welcome to the ASKSBDC and Case Force Disaster Relief Loan, COVID Idle Fire and California Rebuild Fund updates, presented by the Northern California SBDC Finance Center, as well as some of the folks that join us from the SBA, Carrie Ellenwood, and we have Catherine from Morrison Forster joining us to answer many of your questions today. So as for introduction, for those of you who may not have been with us before, we're the Northern California SBDC, and we are supported by the Small Business Administration in the state of California, providing no fee advising for small businesses. So whether it be e-commerce or maybe bookkeeping or strategic and exit planning, there's access at no out-of-pocket cost to get the help that you need in your business. In the Finance Center, which Sunita and I have been working with, we specialize in helping small business owners get loans. And today we have Sunita Maharaj, who's our Associate Director, and myself, Mike Boston, as Regional Advisor. So our agenda for today is, we'll start with the disclaimer, all the mumbo jumbo. Then we have some COVID and fire idle parameters, PPP applications and required documents for forgiveness. And then we'll cover the California Rebuilding Fund, which is a California-only public-private partnership that's recently launched to provide assistance funds in the state of California. We'll have updates from Carrie from the Small Business Administration. We'll cover some of the upcoming webinars. And then we have some folks joining us from our Attorney Coalition to answer a number of the legal questions you may have. One of the folks we have, it covers a lot in the area of taxation. And I know those are some burning questions that have been out there. And we'll be open at that point for Q&A. So disclaimer is that this information was correct when the presentation was created. I literally saw a copy sent to me about 5 minutes before we started from Sunita. So we're always up to the last minute looking for any updates that may affect all of you. The information provided in this webinar and any supplementary materials provided to registrants are intended to be for educational and informational purposes only. They do not constitute professional, financial, or legal advice. No registrant should act or fail to act on the basis of any material contained in this webinar without obtaining, oops, I can't see my whole screen, my apologies, without obtaining proper financial, legal, or other professional advice specific to their situation. The Northern California Small Business Development Center and its host, the Humboldt State University Sponsored Programs Foundation, specifically disclaims any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the information presented in this webinar. That was a mouthful. Thank you for your patience with that slide. Okay, so with the idle COVID loans, apply today if you've not yet, if you've been holding off for whatever reason. If you get approved and decide that you don't want to take it, you don't have to take it, but at least you're putting yourself in the position to have the option, because no new applications will be accepted after Thursday, 12/31 of 2020. Currently, the idle advance is no longer available. Those funds have been exhausted. And you have up to 6 months to get reconsidered if you had previously put in an application and were declined for whatever reason. If you needed to get an amount allowed increased, I talked to someone earlier this week that had been approved for a larger amount, opted to want to have it reduced. And when they asked if they could instead have it increased again, they were able to go back and be considered for that. So you have a chance to really look at the amount you need and apply for reconsideration, and including if they potentially declined you, can go back and they may just need other documentation. So if you've got questions about any of that and where you stand and how you might be able to work on that, give us a call at 833-ASK-SBDC and be connected with one of our advisors to help you work through that. So the parameters that we have for these loans, for the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, these are the loans that are made directly by the Small Business Administration. And we have at this time 2 loans that are out there. One is related to the pandemic, and the other is related to fires. And these were loans that were made available to businesses in counties affected by fires and those adjoining them. So for the COVID-related loans, the rate is 3.75% or 2.75% for nonprofits. These are for a term of 30 years, and the first payment is deferred for 11 months. So you won't have your first payment due until the 12th month, although interest does accumulate during that time. You'll have to provide collateral for any loans of $25,000 or more, and personal guarantees on loans greater than $200,000. These loans, unlike PPP, are not forgivable, but being spread over 30 years and with such a low interest rate, they are much easier on the cash flow. You're allowed to spend these funds on things that help you sustain and not grow your business. You can use it to cover your operating expenses, cost of goods sold, interest on your debt payments. You're not able to make principal payments on those debts, nor principal payments on a mortgage if you've got mortgage on your commercial space. And you're also not allowed to pay off any tax liens with those funds. For the fire-related loans, it's a sliding scale between 3% and 6%, or 2.75% for not-for-profits. These are amortized for up to 30 years, whereas the COVID-related are just strictly 30 years. And the deferrals on these are 6 months instead of 11, and interest does accrue during that time. Collateral is required the same, 25,000 and over, and personal guarantees are required from any owner of over 20% of the business. Also, these loans are not forgivable, and you're able to use these funds as working capital to cover any ordinary business and operating expenses. You also cannot use these for expansion or refinancing any long-term loans. So with regard to the Paycheck Protection Program, that loan is no longer available. It closed as of Sunday, August 8th of 2020. So at this point, any of the PPP related topics are going to be related to the folks who already have those loans. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Sunita, who's our resident expert on all things forgiveness.
Yes, that's so true. Thank you, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Glad to see all 101 of you today. So thank you for joining us again on our 72nd installment of updates. So PPP forgiveness, this has not changed in the last few weeks. These are still the same slides, but there's still questions on PPP forgiveness, and that's the reason why we go over this. So that way you have it in hand. Alan will put it in the chat as well, this deck, so you have a written reference of it. You can watch it again also at ASKSBDC.com. We also have a library that you can review these webinars again. But in another 2 weeks, we are going to have another update, and I hope to have more information for you, hopefully on PPP, where PPP is going. If there is a new stimulus package, we're all crossing our fingers. As of right now, there is no new PPP stimulus package. Everything is kind of status quo. Carrie and I were on a call earlier today in regards to where the Senate or where legislation is going with this. They are still working on it. So the good news is they are still working on it, and it's not something that's been pushed aside. We heard from, I believe, Ami Bear's office this morning, and they were stating that they're still working on it. Some things need to be changed around. But Carrie will go into this as well. As soon as there is a package that has been approved and it goes into law, when and if that happens, the turnaround time for SBA to get on board with that may have a little bit of lag, depending on the language of the new laws. So I know she's going to go into that a little bit more, but I just wanted to let everybody know that it wouldn't be instantaneous, but at least we know if it does go into law that there is something else that's going to be able to assist all of our small business owners. And I know everyone right now, especially with the close downs, are in panic mode. So we are here for you, as always, to answer your questions and to help as much as we can. So let me go into forgiveness. Sorry, I just had to say all of that before I jumped into this. I apologize. So PPP loan forgiveness. Same thing, 10 months from the end of your covered period, you have until you can apply for that. If you want to apply for it earlier than that, you can. And guess what? We have actually heard of people getting forgiven, and lots of people getting forgiven. So that's the great thing. I know when this was first released a couple of months ago, they were accepting applications. There was a little bit of a hiccup or a little bit of stall in regards to it getting approved. But now it's more and more people are getting approved on a daily basis. We still don't know about the 150 or less, if that's going to be completely forgiven, or if it's going to be, if our $50,000 application is going to be changed to 150,000. We don't know that right now. So we're just going to give you the information. We do know that's solid at this point in time. So it's current as of right now. Covered period could go from 8 weeks or 24 weeks. And the date, if you don't know which one you fall into, if you're funded before June 5th, then you have a choice between 8 and 24 weeks. The lender has 60 days to complete your application. So you submit your application to your lender, then the lender has 60 days to review all the documents. I know there is already a question in the Q&A in regards to 641. Lender requested a 641 from you, but you don't use a 641. So what is it that you use? What documentation do you use to evidence to the state about your employees? So let's talk about that and let's see if that's going to be sufficient. If that's all you have, then let's submit it to the lender and then let them figure out if they can use that document or not. So let's give them everything that you have and they can figure out which document is going to be sufficient, because we know that not everyone uses a 641. So let's take a look at that and see what it is that you have to make sure that it's going to be something that they can accept. Once the lender submits your application, then SBA has another 90 days to review it and accept it or not. It looks like a lot of them are being accepted and are being forgiven. So that is good news. If you're not sure of what you have is correct, then let's go ahead and review it with you. Give us a call, 833-ASKSBDC. Repayment deadline for unforgiven funds. So anything that's not forgiven, say you needed that money and you used it for something else. You didn't use it for payroll of a minimum of 60%, and you didn't use it for usable other costs. Well, that's going to end up being a loan. So that loan will be at 1%. And in the beginning of, I believe the term, it was a 2 years or 5-year term. So the 2 years, anything funded before June 5th had a 2-year term, your note, and then anything after has a 5-year loan term, sorry. Negotiate with your lender to see if they will renegotiate that note to 5 years. I have not heard much, and maybe Mike or somebody else has heard if that has come into play yet.
I haven't had any experience with that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything yet, but I think that the lenders might be able to, augment that note and make it a 5-year deal. But right now we are hearing that there's a lot of forgiveness. So, and let's go ahead and go to the next screen, please. So PPP loan eligible costs, we just kind of went over that. So payroll, minimum 60% if you want to get forgiven. So cash payments are fine, state and local, retirement plans, medical insurance premiums, but not federal taxes. So no federal taxes can be used. Money can be used to pay the federal taxes. You can use it for rent. You can use it for mortgage interest. And these are all the dates that you have to make sure that you fall into to be able to get that money forgiven. Utility payments, you can use it towards utility payments, which is great. A lot of people were asking previously, is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? What do you usually pay for utility in your business? Usually it's gas or electric, and some it's propane, depending on where your business is located. If you're up in the hill in Auburn, most of it's a propane, right? Or, those smaller areas up in up the hill. So, that should be something that you should be able to use that money for. And then auditing. Any business can get audited. So let's just put that out there. So if there's a question, you can get audited. Most likely, if you're under 2 million or if you're under 200,000, sorry, you're most likely not going to get audited. But there's always that, caveat that you can be. If you receive 2 million or more, you're for sure going to get audited. So that's just how it goes there. But you know, usually people that receive that amount of money, they have accountants and they have people specific to do this type of work. So it shouldn't be too difficult for you to provide the documentation that you need to provide. Next, please.
And I would just add to that, that the moral of the story here is if you have one of the loans that's 50,000 or less, that's the simplified form, that's not a license to not keep your documentation. It just makes the process a little easier, but keep all documentation of everything that you're alluding to when you're asking for forgiveness, that you've used those funds appropriately, and the percentages, the 60% for payroll and related expenses that they require.
Thank you, Mike. That is really great advice. We're helping so many different communities, and I know sometimes it seems like we're going over the same things over and over again, and we are. It's because new people join us. Some things may have changed just a little bit, so we want to make sure that we go through the whole story again, so you know what changed. We have a Vietnamese community that joined us just recently. We have an advisor who specializes in that community, and now they're starting to watch us as well. They didn't have access to this information, and now they do. So we're very happy to be able to, you know, grow our clientele and our family in all diverse, you know, communities. So if you know of anybody that needs assistance anywhere in Northern California, small business, please have them reach out to us. Give us their information. You give them, you know, our phone number. We want to help as many people as possible, and we don't want to be that great secret anymore. We want to be able to help everybody as much as we can, especially now with all of this PPP and EIDL and the California Rebuilding Fund. So your business, if you received a loan, a PPP loan of $50,000 and less, you can use a simplified form, which is great. I know somebody was asking if they're going to we'll get into the question, sorry. 50,000 or less, simplified form. If you received a loan of 50,000 or more, you can use an EZ loan, which there's 3 different loan packages that we have through forms. The EZ, and then there's the 3508, which is the long form. So the 3508 EZ is for loans of 50,000 or more, no more than 25% reduction in wages, no reduction in employees, no more than 25% reduction in operating costs. It can have more, reduction in wages, but you were unable to operate due to compliance with health ordinances. So there's a lot of shutdowns that's been happening. I don't believe any business, especially restaurants, was ever able to open up to 100% capacity. It was either outdoor or indoor at 25%. So right there was ordinances that didn't allow you to open fully as a business. So you will be able to use the EZ form, and it is definitely much easier. I believe it's only a couple of pages compared to the long form, which is several pages. And there's also addendums that you have to complete. So if you have any questions on that, please reach out to us and we will help you through that process. Next, please. And required PPP documents. This is something that Mike just stated right now. What should I keep? I say you keep it all. If it's a question, should I keep this or not? I'd keep it. And
this is where hoarding is okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking of this right now. You know, you're going through your whole house all the time, you know, especially now you were spending so much time at home. You're, you know, checking things constantly. If it has anything to do with your business, honestly, right now, let's just keep it in a box and just in case you need it until we go through the next year and see if you need those documents or not. Until the next tax period. We're going through this one in April and October. Let's wait until the next one. And I know I'm sorry to tell you to hoard, but just for right now, just in case you need it, because I'd hate for something to be thrown away and then you needed that document. So let's just keep it for, you know, another year. And then after that, I'm hoping that we should be okay. All of these applications are located at the SBA address below. And if you're unable to copy and paste this and get there, just reach out to us. You can call us, you can email us as well, loans@ASKSBDC.com, and then we can just send you that information as well. And we can also match you up with somebody, an advisor that can assist you through this whole process. And Mike, I don't know if you want to go through the California Rebuild Fund. You can, or I can jump into it. I added some more things in there. As you notice, I kind of changed things around
Yeah,
today.
go ahead. There is one thing before we move on to that. There's one thing I wanted to go back to with relation to payroll and related expenses. So in the list on that prior slide, it mentions retirement plan and health benefits. And the important thing there is that it's the employer paid portions. So if you have, for instance, a health benefit plan where you're paying 50% and the employee is paying 50% of the premium, you only get to count the portion that you paid toward the forgiveness. And the same goes with the retirement plan contributions. If they're making contributions to a 401k and you're matching, you get to include your match.
Thank you, Mike. Great insight on that. And I know we've reviewed that in the past and we've kind of gotten away from it because it was very detailed. And I know more people want to see a good overview, but that's a great reminder for everybody. Next, please. So the California Rebuild Fund. This is something fairly new. We've been talking about it for a long time. The loan fund has opened up a few weeks ago. You can apply for this loan. We're going to go more into detail in regards to this loan. A lot of people are asking about the $500 million grant, which is going to be administered by Cal OSBA. It is still not open yet. They are still going through some processes. And as soon as that opens up, we will let you know via email as well. So we will send out something via email letting you know that this is opened up and we have the information. And hopefully by our next Wednesday update, that would have opened up and I'll have more information for you. But I'm very sorry. I just checked the website again right before we got on here and there's nothing and nobody's talking about when it's going to be finalized yet. But as soon as we find out, we let you know. As soon as we know, you know. And the temporary tax relief entails an automatic 3-month extension. And we do have an attorney that deals with federal taxes and they may be able to assist with other federal information if there's any federal. She knows some about the California tax relief, but not in depth. So we will do our best, all of us, to answer the questions on any tax relief that there may be for you. I know somebody was asking in regards to the LA tax, if they're here or not, and we'll kind of go over that as well a little bit later on. So next, please.
And one thing beyond that too is that you can also look at the case resource guide. We'll have some things as when Sunita was mentioning LA. I'm not sure that they get to the issue of taxes, but that is broken down by county. So you'll be able to look, any of you on the call can look for things that are topics related to your specific geographic area.
Perfect, thank you. So the California Rebuild Fund, the funds are being distributed through 12 participating CDFIs. I've already heard of people going through the process. They've been matched up and they have been sent to the lender. They've provided the lender with their documentation. I haven't heard of any fundings yet, but I have heard that they are actually getting to the lenders and the lenders are working with the borrowers. So that is happening and it is moving forward. The loan amount is equal to either 3 months half of my screen's gone. Sorry, it's capped out at 100,000 and revenue for a 3-month period. So whichever is going to be less is most likely the amount that you're going to get. So the terms are for 5 years at 4.25%. And then the first year is only interest-only payments, which is pretty good. And we'll let you know as soon as we start hearing of these funding. So, you'll be up to date or if there's going to be any changes to these parameters. The parameters, I know a lot of people are asking for loan funds for people that just started startups. There might be some loan funds, but not the California Rebuild Fund, not the EIDL, and not the PPP if there is a new PPP. unless they write it in. I don't know. They may write something in stating that, if the business started this year. But as of right now, we don't have any disaster loan assistance for businesses that started business after 2/15/2020. So full doc underwriting, year-to-date financials, 2020 monthly profit and loss statement. You're going to need only your 2019 tax returns, which is great because usually they request 3 years. So this one, they're only asking for 1 year. Articles of incorporation, credit write-up explaining the impacts of COVID on your business. And this can be a short write-up. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot to say though, because how COVID did affect their business. I do want to let you know for your 2019 tax return, you should have net income. If you have a net loss, you can add back depreciation and amortization. Hopefully that's going to be positive and it's going to make you allow you to qualify, but you do have to qualify for this loan. If you need more information, please reach out to us. We have we have advisors that specialize in this loan fund. And then next is going to be SBA. They're going to give us any updates that they have. Today we have Carrie Ellenwood, and I believe I did see David Castaneda's name in there too. Heather is not here with us today, but I keep all their names here because I want you to know who in our district, represented by them. And then here's the SBA disaster contact information, which we have all the time. If you need additional information or if you want to get reconsidered for a loan, this is the information that you'll need here at the bottom of the screen. But now I'm going to let Carrie Ellenwood go ahead and take it away, who is the new Deputy District Attorney of the Sacramento District. So congratulations.
You gave me a promotion. I'm a deputy director.
I'm so sorry. Well, I do that sometimes.
Well, thank you. They're very gracious of you to do that.
I think I'm sorry. I think I had it on a tagline or something somewhere. So I apologize for that.
Oh, it's okay. I understand. Well, hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you today. And Sunita, thank you for having me. I'd just like to share a few updates for you on what's going on in SBA. And as I get started, I'd like to set the context, and that when the Paycheck Protection Program was started and this COVID-19 came to us, this is a national emergency event, and our agency is the smallest agency in the federal government. And this has been one of the most monumental things that we have worked on to assist small businesses. And I know that it has been very difficult for small businesses. And I want to let you know that our agency and all of our people that are working there are working diligently still to process the millions of EIDL loans. The thing that you want to keep in mind is that we're trying to respond to you each as quickly as we can on these EIDL loan questions, the reconsiderations, and new applications. So what you'll want to make sure you do is use the information that Sunita has up on the slide to reach out to them. The district office, we do not have direct access to those systems at this point. We did for a period of time have temporarily assigned people, and then they've hired contract individuals to work for our disaster assistance group because they have so many applications coming in. So please be as patient as you can with us and understand that we're doing our very best to keep up with those requests. Also in regard to the EIDL, if you have a loan and you've used up that loan and you want reconsideration, that is the email where you'll get that. And they're likely to ask you for a 4506T, which is a transcript of your tax returns, and possibly some other business information. The reason I want to mention that to you is because previously we were not doing that. And unfortunately, during difficult times, there are bad actors who will go out and they will find ways to do fraud against the system and the program. So one of the items that Sunita is going to share with you is a PDF we have on what you want to do. Here's how we're finding out about it. A person will call us and say, I just got an invoice for an SBA EIDL loan and I didn't apply for one. Well, that means someone has taken your identity and used it to apply for the loan. So we're putting more stringent requests of information on the EIDL program now to help prevent that. In addition to that, let's say you're one of the victims of the fraud and you're thinking, oh my gosh, my credit's going to be destroyed, this, that, and the other. We're also, when that gets reported to a police report or some of the other contact information on the PDF that I sent for Sunita, then we're going to be able to flag that loan and that credit inquiry and work with you to get that taken off. So that will be an assistance to you in regard to that. Please do, though, report that. If you have any strange looks at your credit or anything like that, you want to take a look at that as well. And all the locations, how to do that will be on the sheet that Sunita is going to share with you. The other thing is on those reconsiderations, they only go up to $150,000 total. So if you received $75,000 and you want another $100,000 on the economic EIDL for COVID, you will not be eligible for that. So please do keep that in mind in your reconsideration requests. The other thing that I have recently learned on the PPP program is that program is being reconsidered from the CARES Act. They're reconsidering looking at that in terms of some of the different ways that there's taxation and other implications of that. If you have a concern or a question that you want someone to hear and give feedback on, or give us feedback on and the Treasury feedback, the best place to go is where it starts, which is your congressional representative. They have people in the field in your area that will help you and take that message forward to Washington. SBA's role in the whole COVID-19 program, as well as Paycheck protection, our role was to help facilitate executing the legislation. So as you can imagine, it's a national emergency and the Congress is working diligently to try and get us some more relief. But until that happens and we get that legislation, we won't be able to tell you anything about what's coming next. What I can tell you is that once that legislation is passed, and let's hope it's soon, that it will take us a bit of time, let's say, at least a week or two to execute, because it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, the new program may address some of the issues that have come up in the old Paycheck Protection Program. So Congress is working hard to put this legislation together to meet your needs, as well as not create unintended consequences. So an example of that I need to share with you is we understand, and our tax attorney may correct me if I don't get this exactly right, because I'm not an attorney or a CPA and I can't give you advice. But what I understand is that the lenders who had, if you were a borrower that had the existing 7A, 504, or microloan, and you received the 6 months of relief from your principal and interest payment and any fees that were incurred, you will be sent from your lender a 1099 as income. So that's one unintended consequence. I'm not sure how that's going to be managed moving forward, but I understand that that's what's going to happen with individuals that receive the forgiveness on loans out of the CARES Act. I'm sorry, I might have misspoke there. Not on the PPP loans, but only the existing loans you had that you received 6 months payment forgiveness from the lender. So they will likely be sending you a 1099. The other thing that's happening is on the fraud, the people that are finding out about that, there's a lot of different avenues for you to address that. So you're going to want to make sure you look at that sheet that Sunita sends out. We've tried to make it as comprehensive as we can and give you some suggestions on how to work through that process. And again, as always, our SBDC is available with no cost resources for you to help you kind of look through all these new and different things that you're experiencing with the COVID-19. The other piece of it is that, I'm trying to make sure I get everything right, so give me a minute here. Once we go into the process of forgiveness, Sunita mentioned the lender has 60 days and SBA has 90 days. So what happens is you submit your paperwork to your lender, they look through it, they approve it, and then they submit that to SBA. And then from that point, it's another 90 days before you know the status of that forgiveness and how much is forgiven. So those seem to be moving fairly smoothly through our system. We have a new system for that as well. So you should be hearing within, you know, the 120 days or so from your lender combined with SBA. As it's ramping up, it's going a little better for you in terms of processing. So be patient again. If you kind of look at it like you moved into a new house, our whole world changed and everything is new to you, and new tools and new things being created to support the small business community by both SBA and the lender. So we're doing our very best to get to you as quickly as possible, with the understanding that you know, this is immediate needs that you have. So thank you all for your patience, and thank you for any of the lenders that are on. SBA really appreciates your responsiveness to small businesses. I know as this started, a lot of our lenders, along with us, were working 7 days a week to try and help get this out to you. So I'm hopeful that our Congress will be able to get some new legislation soon that can help you out. And I'd like to turn it over to David.
Well, thank you, Carrie. I just got one little thing to add that's sort of timely. One of our furthest northern SBDC centers is having a webinar on January 12th on the tax implications for the PPP loan. So they're going to have an expert tax person that will be talking about that, and there will be a Q&A afterwards. So that again is on the 12th of January. So again, you know, along with the great work the SBDC Finance Center is doing, you know, we do have our combined resource partners, which are the local SBDC centers within your local area, with their teams of consultants that have been helping everybody, and then our women's business centers and our SCORE offices. So take a look also at the score.org. They have a lot of good webinars that are timely to help small businesses. And a lot of the trainings are in Spanish also. So again, I just wanted to keep that short. I'll put the registration link for that January 12th tax implication for the PP loan on the chat box, so you can take a look at it. And that's it for me. But again, I thank the SBDC Finance Center for putting on this great webinar throughout this year, and for all the consultants and other business assistance people out there that have been listening, and you know that all of you that have been helping the small businesses out there. Again, I just want to thank you all for doing such a great job. And that's it for me. Back to you, Sunita.
Thank you so much, David. Great to have SBA here with us today to give us all this great information. Let's go to our next slide. And Alan is going to tell us about what's coming up for our region, and then I will go into what we are also doing for the Finance Center. And then David, if you could put, I believe you said for January 12th, you're going to put a link in our chat so people can sign up for that?
Yes, I will right now.
Awesome. That's going to be a great resource. So thank you very much. So go ahead, Alan, I'll let you take it from here. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
It's better if I'm unmuted. You can hear me better. Well, happy holidays, everybody. Coming into January, we've got 3 of our regular scheduled programs in place. So starting, planning, and then financing your business, part of our three-part startup series. Those are confirmed. I'm still looking for an exact date for the financing, but we're going to be doing those. I can also let you know that we have a couple of things that are coming that was confirmed in this halfway through being confirmed this morning. So we also are having a session on the HR, new HR rules that come in California that apply from the beginning of January. We'll have a confirmed date on that. It'll be towards the end of January, probably the 26th. But we'll have a confirmed date on that, and it'll go out in the various e-blasts we do. We've also got a new regional webinar that's probably going to be scheduled for the first week in February on cybersecurity. There is a great program being done across all of across all of California to help small businesses improve their cybersecurity, especially as we just Carrie was talking about with some of the ID theft the challenges that are in place. So we'll be putting that in probably that first week in February. So everything you ever want to see about what's going on, that either by the region or by our great centers, can be seen at that network event, network calendar, SBDC events. We also have our list of on-demand webinars, which are we've now got something like 20 webinars in that recorded list. We've been seeing great pickup on that. So if you go to learn.norcalsbdc.org, simply sign up and you can watch as many of those as you want. And we've been seeing people, there's stuff on there from, managing your credit during a pandemic, handling, what happens if you get a COVID event in your workplace, all sorts of stuff like that. So it's all in the webinar, recorded webinar library. So please feel free to make use of that. And that's all I've got to say from the regional webinar side.
Thank you, Alan. And then I will pick it up from here. The Finance Center is hosting and putting on additional regional webinars and workshops. And on Thursday, which is tomorrow, we have a great workshop, Owning Investing in Real Estate for Small Business and Entrepreneurs. The person that is putting this on with us is part of our team. He has been in the industry for a very long time. I'll just put it that way. He has been able to raise over $1 billion in funding. So he is somebody that knows a lot about raising money, getting loans, and understands that it's not easy. So he's going to take you through this, and we're also going to have panelists. Heather Lutzi will be there with SBA, and there will be 3 or 4 other lenders there as well. So it's going to be great information for you tomorrow. You can find us at ASKSBDC.com or at NorCalSBDC.com at events and sign up right through the link at the events. And then we're going to be back on the 6th with COVID updated disaster loans and anything else new in California. So any other new loans that come out, grants come out that is statewide or even local that we find out about, we will let you know. If you need more local grant information, I would definitely say reach out to your local SBDC office and find out from them what they have at this point in time in regards to COVID lending or grants that may be specific to your community only. So we do more of a regional look at this. And if we know something that's in the Sacramento area or around, then we let you know that information as well. So on the 6th and on the 20th, we'll be back for our Wednesday webinars. We are going to fill up some Wednesdays with some other things as well, but we'll let you know that as soon as we finalize that. So thank you very much. I am going to hand it back over to Mike. And we're going to go over case force disclaimer, and then go straight into case force.
Just quickly before Mike kicks in, I'm just going to let you know, and Mike, you might want to unmute yourself. That'll give me the chance to do this. You'll be, if you're currently registered for today, as you are to be here, you'll be getting a confirmation as soon as we finish this webinar about those 2 more. So you'll automatically be rolled into those 2 in January as well. So everyone will be receiving that shortly.
Thank you. And Alan is going to upload the fraud SBA document. I'm so sorry, I wasn't able to.
So there already.
Okay.
As is a link to sign up for that real estate webinar tomorrow. Because I'm that good.
You're awesome.
Thank you, Alan. All right, so these office hours are intended to be a resource for small businesses with fewer than 25 employees and nonprofits to learn information about various resources and legal issues relevant to the COVID-19 pandemic. They are not intended to offer legal advice, and the leaders of the office hours are not able to represent office hour participants as their attorneys. This session is intended to address issues related to the pandemic, and panelists aren't able to comment on general non-pandemic related issues. And so joining us today are Heidi Kim, attorney at Start Small and Think Big, and Catherine Urbesnik, who's an associate at Morrison and Forster. And Heidi, I go ahead and start with you, and you can give an introduction if you'd like.
Sorry, Heidi, it looks like.
Yep.
Perfect.
I'm the staff attorney for Start Small, Think Big. We are based in Oakland and San Jose. We are a nonprofit that provides free legal, financial, and marketing services to small business owners. We do have an income cap. So I would highly encourage everybody to apply. You can get these services for up to a year if you meet our eligibility. In terms of our legal program, we provide free legal services in the areas of corporate governance, figuring out your entity structure, commercial lease, negotiations. We can help you provide. We can give you some guidance in that area. We also provide guidance with employment and certain intellectual property areas, such as protecting your name and any of your brand. And I've put our info in the chat box for you to look. Today, I'm going to be discussing employment issues. I know, especially in California, with election, we just had Prop 22 pass. A lot of our small business owners come to us with questions about how to treat their workers, and especially classifying, whether it's as employee or independent contractor. And this area of the law is constantly changing in our state. And so it's a hot button topic. Basically, the current state of the law is that everyone is presumed to be an employee, which does place a lot of burden on small business owners, because what that means is if they are presumed to be an employee or classified as an employee, that just kicks in a whole host of responsibilities for the employer, such as, paying minimum wage, sick leave, workers' comp, complying with overtime rules. And so, the test really has been, you're presumed to be an employee unless you can meet 3 very specific criteria. And that criteria is that the hiring entity does not control or direct the work of the worker. And so, as you can see, that's pretty hard to meet in certain businesses. The second prong is that the person hired does work that's not in, the person hired does not perform work that is within kind of the scope of that business. So, for example, the best example of that is Uber and the gig economy companies. For instance, they are currently in a class action where the drivers are trying to be classified as employees. Uber says to meet this prong, Uber classifies themselves as a technology company. And so they're arguing that the drivers, the workers, are not performing work that's related to the field of the business. And of course, the courts saw right through that, said, no, you're a transportation business. These are drivers. They're going to be considered employees. And the third prong is that the worker is customarily engaged in the business of the same nature as a work performed. So an example of that is basically saying, if you're hiring, say, the pandemic hit and you run a business, maybe you run a service business, and so you're hiring someone to come on as a technology support to run Zoom for you. So that person needs to be, that their business needs to be, you know, the same as that they're doing for you. That is running Zoom or running technology for other companies. So that's just a little bit, you know, the bottom line is that pretty much anybody you hire, whether you call them an employee or independent contractor or anything else, the state doesn't care about whether what you call it. If those three prongs are not met, then you are then those people are considered to be an employee, and the hiring entity is on the hook for treating them as such. That's all.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Heidi. Catherine, love to hear from you.
Great. Yes, my name is Catherine Urbesnik, and I am an associate lawyer at Morrison & Forster. My practice specializes in federal tax, and I will admit that I actually live in New Jersey, so California isn't my state, but I do have a sort of a very overarching knowledge about some of the benefits or the COVID response by the California state. So I'm happy to answer any questions to the level that I can. So thank you for joining, and happy to answer questions.
So much. I'm trying to get to where I can see our questions. There we go. Into our questions here. Okay, so we have a sole proprietor with no other employees applying for forgiveness. When filling out the PPP forgiveness application, do I list 0 or 1 employees? My lender is using SBA Complete. I submitted my forgiveness application, but the SBA Complete agent requested second and third quarter 941s and state tax records. I don't file 941s. What do I give them? Well, under the first one, I think you addressed that a little bit earlier, Sunita, but with the first question, it says, do I no employees? Do I list 0 or 1? It would be 1, it's yourself. With regard to the 941s, Sunita, what did you say if they don't file 941s? What was?
And whatever documentation that they use to document how many employees they have or what they're paying, how much taxes and things that they've used. So, I'm not specific on all the different forms that people have or use. So whatever it is that you use, that's what you would give your lender, and let them know that you're not using that particular document.
Yeah, and let me just clarify, because a 941 is a payroll tax return. And since you are filing self-employment taxes, you wouldn't have payroll taxes. So you should have there should be a form that you complete with your federal and state tax returns that would show your self-employment taxes, and that should be what you would give them.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you so much. So we answered that one. Next we have Allison, and this would be for Heidi. Our lease is contractually over on January 31st of 2021 with no option for extension. Under the new regional stay-at-home orders, all office employees are working remote, and we cannot encourage employees to come in and prepare for the move out of the building, nor can we occupy the space we are renting since the closure. What advice or suggestions can you provide as we work through attempting to move prior to the end of our contract during the regional stay-at-home order? Since we are not occupying the space, do we still need to pay rent? Any other suggestions?
So Allison, I'd be curious to know where you're physically located. For instance, where I'm at, the city of San Jose has imposed a moratorium on collecting rents up through March 2021. So, as an initial matter, if whatever city you're located, I would check to see whatever city you're located in has a current moratorium on collecting rent. Unfortunately, the general rule is that leases are good. It's a contract and you're obligated to pay up until, the lease ends. I mean, I think the good news here is that your lease is ending fairly shortly. And so I don't know whether you have been paying rent throughout the pandemic. But I would attempt to negotiate with your landlord to see, you aren't occupying this space, legally, there's not much recourse there, but what we have seen is that some landlords are willing to negotiate because, the reality is that people just do not have the ability to pay. So maybe you can negotiate a reduced rent or maybe terminating the lease, prematurely, although it looks like your lease is being ending shortly. I hope that helps.
There was one other piece to that I'm not sure if you can speak to, and it was the issue that because of the stay-at-home order, they're having a challenge on how to move out of the location since they're not allowed to go into the location, and how the legal end of that lease contract, how will that affect their ability to re-enter that property once things reopen?
I see. So I think under the regional stay-at-home order, and I'd have to check the nuances of it, you cannot encourage employees to come in, but I think there may be, you can't, I think the stay-at-home order says you can't have your employees come in and sit there and work. But I think moving in, coming to take things out, I'm not sure that is prohibited by the stay-at-home order. So I would need to take a closer look at that. Why don't you go on with the questions and maybe I'll take a look right now.
Absolutely, I will do that. So I'll leave that one unanswered, not showing answered yet in the list.
Sorry,
Next,
I know that we're going over on time, but since we have so many questions, we're going to stay on as long as we can to answer as many as we can. And we apologize for going over, but this is just a lot of information that people need. So whoever can stay on, thank you very much. We'll try to get to all of the questions in a timely manner. Catherine and Heidi, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And if SBA, if you have to jump off, that is totally fine. We'll try and get to these questions. If anything's directed to you, we can always reach out to you to get that information.
Anything that I was going to say, anything that we're not able to ask here, we will grab those questions and seek out the answers and get them back to those of you who have asked. The next question is from Todd. It says, if I do not have payroll, I'm not eligible for EIDL or PPP. Is that correct? Well, if you don't have payroll, you're not taking a W-2, you're self-employed, you are still eligible in both of those cases. The issue will be about how you pay yourself, how that's documented in order to quantify what you're actually earning, and then tracking how you're paying yourself. So yes, you would be eligible. Now that said, PPP is no longer available. So it's that for that loan program, it's a moot point, irrespective of what may happen in the future, because since the legislation's not through, it's not law. So we really can't speak to those programs here and now. But with regard to the PPP that has been in place, that can no longer be applied for. With regard to the EIDL, yes, you can apply for the EIDL because it's not only for payroll, it is also available to cover your working capital needs. So if you have any questions for your specific case, please feel free to call us at 833-ASK-SBDC, and one of our Finance Center people will help you to get that put together for yourself. Okay, let's see what we have next. It's answered. Let's see, we have not filed for forgiveness yet, but anticipate obtaining forgiveness. Given the time frame to obtain forgiveness, it is my understanding that we have to document the 150K of PPP as a loan in our financials, since it will not be forgiven before the end of the year. Additionally, I believe we are unable to deduct PPP expenses. Is this correct? Please confirm. So this will be one for Catherine. I imagine you're hearing a lot of questions about this kind of conundrum people have.
Yeah, I mean, there's sort of two questions I think baked in here. One has to do with what you have on your financials, which isn't a tax question. And the other one, I believe, is a tax question about whether you can deduct the PPP expenses. So the forgiveness of a PPP loan is not taxable, but the expenses that were incurred with the PPP loan proceeds, so like the payroll or rent expenses or whatever they were, those will not be deductible because you obviously didn't have to pay taxes on the income. Now, the IRS has said that you really shouldn't take deductions if you expect your PPP loan to be forgiven in a later time. I think otherwise, if you take the deductions in this year and then your PPP loan is forgiven in the next year, you'll have to repay the taxes on the on the amounts that you deducted, or probably even file an amended return. So the idea is if you are going to file for forgiveness, you should not claim deductions for those expenses on your tax return.
Thank you so much. Okay, it says the tax forgiveness is statewide and you don't need to get a loan through this program. See, I guess I'm not. The tax forgiveness is statewide and you don't need to get a loan through this program for it to apply. The initials are EM. I'm having trouble following the question, so if you might rephrase it, and we'll try to get an answer for you on that. And then it says, any word on mandated rent forgiveness and or moratoriums? Heidi, can you speak to that? Is it, is that all localized by municipality?
Yes. And so that's the trouble I have here, is that every county, every city is doing their own thing. So you just have to really look at the language of the city and county in which you're located in.
Thank you. All right, so I have a question. What is the look back period for the 3 months of revenue? If it's a recent period as opposed to pre-COVID, then it will be much smaller in terms of having taken a hit due to COVID. So I think this is related to the California Rebuilding Fund. And Sunita, do you recall what the period is where they're evaluating the qualifying revenue?
They're looking at 2019. And of course, your profit and loss statement to see how much you were affected by COVID. So they're looking at your 2019. Yeah, I wasn't really sure about the 3 months look back period, what that.
I think what they're trying to arrive at is what the average monthly revenue is that they're using, because the cap is 3 months revenue or $100,000, whichever is less.
Right. So they're going to look at last year's, because this year, of course, you're going to be down.
Right. Okay, excellent. Hopefully that helps, Kian. Let's see, that one's done. What if the individual is a principal officer, stockholder, LLC member? Steve, I'm not sure which program you're referring to, so if you could include that line in your next question, because I won't be able to put the two together because they'll be far apart, and we've got a number of other questions that have come up in the meantime. I'm not sure I understand your explanation of contractor versus employee. Can you clarify the 3 criteria again? And that would be directed to Heidi.
Which question? Sorry.
There's Steve has a question. It says, I'm not sure I understand your explanation of contractor versus employee. Can you clarify the 3 criteria again?
Sure. So an employee, an independent, so all your workers are presumed to be employees unless they can meet 3 criteria. And that criteria is that number 1, that you do not control or direct the actual work of your worker, right? So you don't say when you come in, you don't say when you do the work. That's the first criteria. You don't say how you do the work. The second criteria is that the worker is not in the same business, or the work that the worker is doing is not in the same business that you are doing. So for example, I gave the example of the, so say you have a food business. If your worker is there preparing food for you, they are not doing work that's in a different business than you. And so that criteria is not met. And thirdly, the last criteria is that when that person is, the work that person is doing is also, so it's a little bit contradictory with the second criteria, but the idea there is that that worker is customarily engaged in an independent business that they have, that's the same type of work that they're performing for you. So the example there is you hire someone, maybe a technology specialist who has a business doing Zoom for other people. And so they have their business and they're going to come and run Zoom for you. So in that circumstance, the criteria would be met. A circumstance where that criteria would not be met would be you have a worker and they don't have an independent business like preparing food, and they're coming and they're preparing food for you. Hope that makes sense.
So I would just want to make sure on the number 3, it would be as if the person is the technology provider and going to do Zoom for this company as they do for the other clients. So in effect, this company is a client of theirs, just like everybody else that they're doing Zoom for.
Exactly. So, you know, the legislature, for better or for worse, has set it up so that the idea is if you're contracting with another person or business, you know, it's the idea is that if it's 2 companies that are contracting with each other, that's not going to be considered an employee. Another example is, you know, I live in Silicon Valley, so we always hear of Google hiring chefs and masseuses to come for their workers. Well, if they're hiring a masseuse, that masseuse is not going to be considered an employee because that masseuse kind of does masseuse work outside of working for Google, if that makes sense.
That's great, thank you. I have a question now for Catherine. The question is, sole prop with no other employees applying for forgiveness. Follow-up question about 941s. I already gave them my 2019 business tax forms, including my Schedule C and forms 8829, 8995, and 4562. I also gave them my canceled checks for quarters 2 and 3, estimated tax payments for 1040 and 540 ES. What else can I give them since they're asking for 941s?
Is nothing, because 941s just aren't applicable to you. So I think the best thing to do is just to try to speak to somebody and talk, you know, and explain to them that you're a sole proprietorship. I mean, 941 only applies to wages that you've paid that are subject to federal income tax, but you're not paying wages. You're, you know, again, it's a self-employment tax. So, you know, I understand sometimes these people that you're giving the forms to have a checklist as to what they require, and if they don't get it, they think that it's incomplete. But you know, it may be that you need to ask to speak to somebody else and just explain to them the situation. But there really isn't any other form that you could give them that would satisfy that request.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, I have somebody, I think maybe they're an advisor. A client of mine in Redwood City has a space with lease up in February of 2021. They had tried in good faith to negotiate with their landlord for reduced rents, but landlord won't budge. They even paid good faith rent based on what they can afford, but landlord won't acknowledge and insisted that they paid the amount that they are asking, which is a little less than the rent before COVID. They can no longer sustain staying. Should, where did it go? The new question's coming in. It moves the other question out of the screen. Let me see here. Should they now hire a real estate attorney to end the lease and work out an exit?
Yeah, you know, these commercial lease negotiations are just really, really difficult. I would recommend hiring an attorney and working on terminating that lease and figuring something out. Yes.
With that, I have one more for you. Allison is asking, we are in Ventura County. My biggest concern is facilitating the move at this time. Thank you for any direction. I'm presuming this is related to the earlier question where there was the shelter, the regional stay-at-home order, and whether they could have the employees come in.
Yeah, you know, so I don't have time to look up Ventura County's order. I do know my recommendation is, and of course, without knowing how big your space is and how many people are required in the move, I wouldn't worry about, I think as long as you are not violating your county's other orders for gatherings, you know, if your county limits, you know, I do think that the statewide and regional stay-at-home orders do leave some room for circumstances such as moving out and do not cover necessarily, you know, employees regularly working in the office space. Now, I would suggest bringing that issue up with your landlord, and just, you know, flagging the issue for them. But you know, given that there are a lot of exemptions in terms of, you know, if it is, I don't know if your business is in the line of certain essential work, or, you know, because certain healthcare work is considered essential, and so sometimes that's exempted. I would just have to know the specifics, but assuming it isn't, I do think you're safe there, given that you're not having like 10 workers, 10 moving people in there.
And the last question that we have, gosh, we worked through, I guess, 46 so far. If you work with travel agents that sell travel with your company, they receive commissions. If they sell our package to their clients, are they employees or contractors?
So that's a really good question, because travel agents are exempted from the general law of AB 5. You know, basically what it is certain professions have lobbied for these exemptions with the legislature. So you do not have to worry about that. Travel agents are specifically permitted to be independent contractors without going through the 3-prong test.
Okay, we have, okay, Steve reclarified his question. Thank you so much, Steve, for that. Say you have a small restaurant and 2 people are owner operators. One is a majority shareholder. Is the minority shareholder considered an employee if his only compensation is based on profits, same as the majority shareholder?
Nope, you're safe there. If they're owners, that takes precedence, and you do not need to worry about the employee contractor distinction.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to add to that. You can't, the rule is, even from a tax perspective, you can't be both a partner and an employee. So in that case, if you have somebody who owns interest in a partnership, that person will always be subject to the self-employment tax and not be treated as an employee.
Excellent. Thank you both so much for that.
I think that's going to have to be our last one. We are at 11:49 and we were supposed to end at 11:30. So I really, unless we can get this question and then send it over to the attorneys, unless you have time for this one more question, and then that will be it.
This only question is to anybody who might be able to answer this really quickly. Somebody is in need of an attorney that's doing pro bono or is nonprofit. They have an EIDL loan, and they're an event company with no current income and are trying to figure out if they need to fold. So I think that it sounds like that they've got this SBA loan. They're trying to figure out if they could file bankruptcy or something of that nature. Heidi, would your firm be one that could talk to them?
My answer is apply to our nonprofit through the link I provided in the chat box.
Excellent. Heidi, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you for joining us today. And because this is the last session we have before the holidays, we all hope that you and yours have a great holiday and stay well and safe. Have a great holiday season.
Thanks.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you for joining us. See you next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.